My name is Rachel Thompson, and 3 days ago, I learned that my entire life was a lie. I'm sitting in the back row of Morrison and Associates law firm in downtown Seattle, watching raindrops race down the floor-to-ceiling windows. The Space Needle pierces through the gray October sky in the distance, and I can't help but think how fitting it is that everything feels so cold and distant today. The last will and testament of Robert James Thompson, attorney Morrison, begins, his voice echoing in the mahogany-paneled conference room. My stepmother Helen sits in the front row, dabbing her eyes with a tissue that hasn't caught a single tear. My half-siblings, Michael and Jennifer, flank her like bodyguards. Michael keeps checking his Rolex, the same one Dad gave him for his Harvard graduation. Jennifer scrolls through her phone, probably already planning how to spend her inheritance. And then there's me, 26 years old, sitting alone in the back like I don't belong. Which, personal effects. The silence stretches. Morrison shuffles through his papers, and I lean forward in my chair. That concludes the reading of Robert Thompson's will, he announces, closing the leather portfolio. The words hit me like a physical blow. I stand up so quickly my chair scrapes against the hardwood floor, the sound echoing through the suddenly quiet room. "Excuse me," I say, my voice barely above a whisper. "What about me?" Helen turns around slowly, her perfectly applied makeup not hiding the coldness in her blue eyes. "Oh, Rachel, we didn't expect you to come." "I'm his daughter," I say, louder now. "Where's my name in the will?" Michael finally speaks up, his voice carrying that condescending tone he's perfected over the years. "Rachel, Dad already did enough for you. He paid for your college, gave you a roof over your head. I can't expect what?" I interrupt, feeling heat rise in my cheeks. "To be treated like family?" Jennifer laughs, actually. Laughs? "Come on, Rachel, you're 26. It's time to stand on your own feet. Dad doesn't owe you anything." Helen stands and smooths down her black Chanel dress. "Your father was very clear about his wishes, dear. He felt he had already. The same people who made me feel like an outsider at every Christmas dinner, every birthday party, every family vacation I was reluctantly included in. Adequately, I repeat, my voice cracking. He was my father. Was," Helen emphasizes, gathering her purse. "And now he's gone. Michael, Jennifer, shall we go discuss the transition plans for the company?" They file out of the conference room like I'm invisible, leaving me standing there with attorney Morrison, who looks genuinely uncomfortable. "Miss Thompson," he says gently, "I'm sorry. I know this must be difficult." I nod, not trusting my voice. $60 million split between 3 people, and I get nothing outside. The Seattle rain has intensified, matching the storm brewing in my chest. I walk to my 10-year-old Honda Civic, the same car I've been driving since college, and sit in the parking garage for 20 minutes, crying until my mascara runs in black streams down my cheeks. My phone buzzes with a text from my best friend Sarah. "How did it go? Call me. How did it go? I just learned that the man I called Dad for 18 years thought so little of me, that he left me nothing. Not even a family photo or a piece of jewelry that belonged to my real mother. The woman who died when I was 2, the woman Helen replaced so efficiently." I drive through the winding roads of Bellevue, past the Microsoft campus where Dad made his first fortune, past the coffee shops and boutiques that define this affluent suburb. When I pull into the circular driveway of the Thompson mansion, I sit in my car for another 10 minutes, staring at the house that was never really my home. The Tudor-style mansion sits on 2 acres of perfectly manicured grounds overlooking Lake Washington. Dad bought it when he married Helen, calling it a fresh start for our blended family. But it never felt blended to me. It felt like I was a guest who overstayed her welcome. Helen's Mercedes and Jennifer's BMW are already in the driveway. Through the large windows, I can see them moving around inside, probably already planning how to redecorate now that Dad's gone. I take a deep breath and walk to the front door, using my key for what I know will be the last time. Rachel, Helen's voice carries from the living room. What are you doing here? I find them in Dad's study, going through his desk drawers like vultures picking at a carcass. I came to get my things, I say, trying to keep my voice steady. Of course, Helen says, not looking up from the papers she's sorting. Though I can't imagine what you'd need to take the only connections I have to the man who raised me, flawed as he was. I'll be quick, I say, heading toward the stairs. Actually, Jennifer calls after me. We're having the house professionally cleaned tomorrow. If you could have everything out by tonight, that would be helpful. Tonight? They want me gone tonight. I climb the stairs to my old bedroom, each step feeling heavier than the last. The room looks exactly like it did when I moved out for college 8 years ago. Pale yellow walls, white furniture, and photos of a girl who thought she belonged somewhere. As I pack my few remaining possessions into cardboard boxes, I can hear them downstairs, their voices carrying up through the vents. They're discussing selling Dad's art collection, renovating the kitchen, maybe putting the house on the market entirely. They're erasing him, just like they erased me. But as I tape up the last box, I realize something. I don't want to disappear quietly. I don't want to fade away like I never mattered. Tomorrow, I'm going to start fighting for answers, because something about this whole situation doesn't feel right. Dad might not have been the warmest father, but completely cutting me out. That feels like Helen's influence, not his choice. I carry my boxes downstairs, and Helen meets me at the front door. Rachel, she says, her voice softer now, almost gentle. I hope you understand this isn't personal. Your father just wanted to ensure the family business stayed in the family. I am family. I say quietly. She pauses, something flickering across her face. Guilt? Maybe? Of course you are. Dear, you'll always be Robert's stepdaughter. Stepdaughter, not daughter. The distinction cuts deep, but it also clarifies something for me. As I drive away from the mansion for the last time, I make myself a promise. I'm going to find out why Robert Thompson, and I'm about to discover just how valuable mine really is. The next morning, I wake up in my cramped studio apartment in Capitol Hill with a splitting headache and mascara still smudged under my eyes. The contrast between this place and the Bellevue mansion couldn't be starker. 400 square feet of reality versus 8,000 square feet of lies. My phone shows 17 missed calls from Sarah and a text that simply reads, "Call me now." But I can't face her questions yet. I can't face anyone's pity. Instead, I make coffee with my ancient coffee maker and stare out my single window at the Seattle skyline. The Space Needle looks different from here. Smaller, more distant. Like everything else in my life right now. I'm supposed to be at work in 2 hours. I'm a graphic designer at a small marketing firm downtown, making barely enough to cover rent and student loans. The irony isn't lost on me. While my siblings inherit millions, I'm worried about making next month's rent payment. My phone buzzes again. This time it's an unknown number. Miss Thompson? This is Jana Rodriguez from Morrison and Associates. Mr. Morrison asked me to call you. My heart skips. Is there something wrong with the will? Not exactly, she says carefully. But Mr. Morrison found some additional documents in your father's safety deposit box. He'd like you to come in this afternoon if possible. Additional documents? Hope flickers in my chest like a candle in the wind. What kind of documents? I'm not at liberty to discuss that over the phone. Can you be here at 2 p.m.? I agree and spend the next 4 hours in a fog. calling in sick to work and pacing around my apartment. What could Dad have left in a safety deposit box? Maybe a letter explaining his decision. Maybe a smaller inheritance he kept separate. At 1:45 p.m., I'm back in the Morrison and Associates building, but this time I'm alone in the conference room. The rain has stopped, and afternoon sunlight streams through the windows, making the mahogany table gleam. Morrison enters carrying a manila envelope, his expression unreadable. Miss Thompson, thank you for coming. What I'm about to show you was in a safety deposit box your father maintained separately from his main accounts. The box was registered under his name only, and according to the bank records, he visited it just 2 weeks before his death. He slides the envelope across the table. My name is written on it in Dad's familiar handwriting for Rachel when the time is right. My wife, written in Dad's careful script. Rachel, if you're reading this, then I'm gone and you've learned about the will. I know you must be hurt and confused. There are things about your past, about your real past, that Helen insisted we keep from you. I went along with it for too long, and I'm sorry. The office on Maple Ridge contains everything you need to know about who you really are. I should have told you years ago, but I was a coward. I was afraid of losing the only daughter who ever really loved me for who I was, not what I could give her. You deserve the truth, Rachel. You deserve so much more than I was brave enough to give you while I was alive. Find the truth. It will set you free. Love. Dad's vision blurs as tears fall onto the paper. He did love me. Despite everything, despite Helen's influence, he loved me. Miss Thompson. Morrison says gently, would you like me to drive you to the address? I shake my head, wiping my eyes. No, I need to do this alone. The drive to Maple Ridge Drive takes 20 minutes through Bellevue's tree-lined streets. The address leads me to a small, nondescript office building tucked between a dental practice and a tax preparation service. Suite 204 is on the second floor, at the end of a quiet hallway. The key turns easily in the lock. Inside, I find a small office with a desk, a filing cabinet, and a wall covered with documents, photos, and newspaper clippings. But it's not random. It's organized like an investigation board. At the center of it all is a photograph I've never seen before. A man who looks remarkably like me, holding a baby. The baby has my eyes, my nose, my smile. Below the photo is a birth certificate. My birth certificate. But the father's name isn't Robert Thompson. It's James Morrison. My father was James Morrison, not the attorney Morrison, but someone else entirely. Someone who died when I was 6 months old. I scan the wall more carefully now, my heart pounding. There are newspaper articles about James Morrison, founder of Morrison Tech Solutions. Articles about his death in a car accident. Articles about his company being sold after his death for $200 million. And there, in a folder marked Trust Documents, I find the truth that changes everything. James Morrison established a trust for his daughter. For me, before he died. A trust worth his entire fortune to be managed by his business partner until I turned 25. I turned 25 last year. According to these documents, I should have inherited $200 million on my birthday. But the trust was never activated because the trustee, Robert Thompson, never told me about it. Robert Thompson, the man I called Dad. He was James Morrison's business partner. My hands shake as I piece together the timeline. James Morrison dies when I'm 6 months old. His business partner, Robert Thompson, is supposed to manage my inheritance. Instead, Robert marries my mother, Helen, and they raise me as their own daughter, never mentioning my real father or my inheritance. When my mother dies 2 years later, Robert and Helen continue the charade. They let me believe Robert is my biological father while sitting on a fortune that belongs to me. But there's more. In the bottom drawer of the filing cabinet, I find bank statements showing regular transfers from the Morrison Trust to Robert Thompson's personal accounts. Millions of dollars over the years. He didn't just hide my inheritance. He stole it. I sit in that small office until the sun sets, reading through every document, every bank statement, every legal paper. The picture becomes clearer with each page. Robert Thompson built his empire with my money. The house in Bellevue, the vacation homes, Michael's Harvard education, Jennifer's trust fund. All of it paid for with the inheritance that should have been mine. And Helen knew. She had to know. The marriage certificate shows she married Robert just 8 months after James Morrison died. She didn't fall in love with a grieving business partner. She married into a conspiracy. As I drive home through the dark Seattle streets, my mind races with possibilities. I could go to the police, but would they believe me? I could confront Helen and the others, but they'd probably destroy evidence. Or I could be smart about this. I could gather more evidence, build an airtight case, and take back what was stolen from me. By the time I reach my apartment, I've made my decision. I'm not going to disappear quietly like they want me to. I'm going to fight for what's mine. But first, I need help, and I know exactly who to call. I pull out my phone and dial a number I found in Dad's files. The number for the law firm that originally handled the Morrison Trust, Blackwood and Associates. I believe you've been looking for me. Miss Morrison, we've been trying to locate you for over a year. The voice on the phone belongs to Margaret Blackwood, senior partner at Blackwood and Associates. I'm sitting in her downtown Seattle office the next morning, surrounded by floor-to-ceiling law books and the smell of expensive leather. When you didn't claim your inheritance on your 25th birthday, we began an investigation, she continues, sliding a thick folder across our mahogany desk. What we discovered was disturbing. I opened the folder with trembling hands. Inside are bank records, legal documents, and a private investigator's report that makes my stomach turn. Robert Thompson has been systematically draining your trust fund for 25 years. Margaret explains, her voice sharp with professional anger. He used forged documents to justify the withdrawals, claiming they were for your care and education. In reality, he was funding his lifestyle and business ventures. The numbers are staggering. $200 million, reduced to barely $30 million over the years. And that remaining $30 million, it's been sitting in an account I never knew existed, earning interest while I struggled to pay rent. There's more, Margaret says, pulling out another document. Your mother, your real mother, Sarah Morrison, didn't die in an accident when you were 2. She died of cancer when you were 6 months old, shortly after your father's car crash. Helen Thompson was your No. She was an employee who became Robert's wife and co-conspirator. They created an entirely false identity for you, complete with forged birth certificates listing Robert as your father. I think about all those years of feeling like an outsider, of Helen treating me like I didn't belong. She knew exactly why. I didn't belong, because I wasn't Robert's daughter. I was the rightful heir to a fortune they were stealing. What are my options? I ask, surprised by how steady my voice sounds. Margaret leans forward, her gray eyes intense. We can file criminal charges for fraud, embezzlement, and identity theft. We can also file civil suits to recover your stolen inheritance, plus damages. But Rachel, I need you to understand. This will destroy them. All of them. Good, I say without hesitation. They destroyed me first. That afternoon, I drive to the Bellevue mansion one last time. But this time, I'm not the broken, rejected daughter. I'm Rachel Morrison, and I'm coming to collect what's mine. Helen's Mercedes is in the driveway, along with Michael's Tesla and Jennifer's BMW. Perfect. The whole family is here. Dead, just like you made it clear for 25 years that I didn't really belong in this family. Michael stands up, his face flushed with anger. You need to leave, now. This is our house, actually, I say, pulling out the legal documents Margaret gave me. It's not. I spread the papers across their architectural plans, watching their faces change as they recognize official legal letterhead. What is this? Jennifer demands, grabbing one of the documents. It's the truth, I say calmly. The truth about who I really am and who you really are. Helen has gone completely pale. She knows what's coming. My name isn't Rachel Thompson. I continue, enjoying the way they're all staring at me now. It's Rachel Morrison. My father was James Morrison, founder of Morrison Tech Solutions. My mother was Sarah Morrison. And you, Helen, were my nanny. That's ridiculous, Michael sputters. But his voice lacks conviction. Is it? I pull out the birth certificate. This is my real birth certificate. And this, I hold up another document, is the trust fund my real father established for me. A trust fund worth $200 million that Robert Thompson was supposed to manage until I turned 25. The silence in the room is deafening. Instead, I continue. Robert and Helen decided to steal my inheritance, create a false identity for me, and raise me as their daughter while systematically draining my trust fund to build their own empire. Helen finally finds her voice. Rachel, you don't understand. I understand perfectly. I cut her off, all funded with my money. This house built with my inheritance. Michael's education paid for with my trust fund. Jennifer's lifestyle funded by money that belonged to me. Jennifer is reading through the documents now, her face growing paler by the second. This can't be legal. There has to be a statute of limitations or something. There is, I agree, for most crimes, but not for ongoing fraud, and not when the victim was a minor who couldn't have known about the crime. I pull out my phone and show them a text message. I've already filed criminal charges. The FBI's Financial Crimes Unit is very interested in this case. Apparently, stealing a child's inheritance and creating false identities is exactly the kind of thing they love to prosecute. Helen collapses into a chair, her champagne glass forgotten. We gave you a good life, she whispers. We raised you, loved you, you stole from me. I explode, all my calm composure finally cracking. You made me feel like I was worthless, like I didn't deserve anything. While you were living off my money, do you have any idea we were protecting you? Helen says desperately. You were just a baby. You thought you could get away with it. I finish. And you almost did. Michael is pacing now, running his hands through his hair. What do you want? Rachel, money? We can work something out. I want what? Was always mine, I say firmly. I want my inheritance back. All of it. Plus interest. Plus damages for 25 years of theft. That's impossible, Jennifer says. We don't have that kind of money liquid. It's tied up in investments, property. Then you'll liquidate. I say simply, you'll sell this house, the vacation homes, the art collection, the cars. You'll dissolve Thompson Industries and return every penny you stole from me. You can't do this, Michael says, but he sounds defeated. This will ruin us. Like you ruined me. While you lived in luxury, bought with my money. I gather up my documents and head toward the door, then turn back one last time. Oh, and Helen, you're right about one thing. Robert did give me a good life, just not the way you think. He left me evidence of everything you did. Every forged document, every illegal transfer, every lie you told. He documented it all. Helen's face crumbles. He promised he would never tell you. He didn't, I say. But he made sure I'd find out eventually. I think his guilt finally caught up with him. As I walk toward the door, I hear Jennifer sobbing and Michael shouting about lawyers. But handing that their 25-year con is over. Outside, the Seattle sun is breaking through the clouds for the first time in days. I sit in my Honda Civic, which I'll probably replace with something nicer very soon, and call Margaret Blackwood. It's done, I tell her. They know everything. How do you feel? She asks. I think about it for a moment, watching the mansion, where I grew up believing I was unwanted. Free, I say finally. For the first time in my life, I feel free. Tomorrow, the real work begins. Legal proceedings, asset recovery, rebuilding my life with my real identity. But tonight, I'm going to call Sarah and tell her everything. I'm going to order expensive takeout and drink good wine in my tiny apartment. Because I'm not Rachel Thompson anymore, the unwanted stepdaughter who never quite belonged. I'm Rachel Morrison, and I'm worth $200 million. But more importantly, I finally know who I really am.